Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Cheatin'. Is the latest film from Bill Plympton, the king of independent animation, probably one of the more well-known independent animators around, and has been doing it for quite a long time. This is actually his 7th feature-length animated film done independently, which is certainly an achievement in itself. What I've noticed between this and his last film, Idiots and Angels, is a maturity that I didn't really expect from him in his storytelling based on his previous works. There's a deeper storyteller than people had noticed before. It surprised me in Idiots and Angels. I didn't really expect the kind of film I got from Idiots and Angels, and Cheatin' is similar in that vein. And Cheatin' takes on a subject that really you expect from more of an adult drama, but it's still very much an animated film, but it's also really tapping into a really universal subject matter. Even if the story itself isn't, I don't think, as great as Idiots and Angels and as deep as Idiots and Angels, and maybe fails a little bit in exactly portraying that maturity, it's still an amazing delight to behold. Ella, a beautiful woman who has her nose in a book and is walking by a fair, and all these guys think she's gorgeous, but she wants nothing to do with them. She won't give them the time of day. And then while she's at the fair and at the bumper cars, she keeps bumping into this guy Jake, who keeps saving her as she keeps getting bumped around in the bumper cars. And then they fall in love and quickly get married and move in together. And their relationship is amazing. They love each other very much. They love having sex together very much. He's a gas station attendant. She doesn't seem to really have a job. After a while, they're going out, and then a woman who is very jealous and wants to have sex with Jake decides to take a picture of Ella as she goes into a changing room that's filled with mannequins, male mannequins, and takes a picture and makes it look like Ella is changing in front of all these naked men. I guess they were gonna have a weird orgy or something. I'm not exactly sure what the idea behind that picture was, but this woman shows it to Jake, and it enrages him and makes him decide that he's going to cheat on Ella as much as he possibly can. He just keeps like nailing any girl who will give him his number, who before he would just throw the number away when he worked at the gas station, but suddenly he's taking up all these women on all these offers and betting them at the Easy Motel. Ella is trying to get her revenge and hopefully get them back together as she tries to figure out why he's exactly doing this, and hopefully they won't either kill each other or ruin their relationship any further. One of the strongest things Cheatin' does is, if you've ever been cheated on, that emotion is really strong and very unique. Cheatin' really took me back to the times that has happened to me. It's been a while because I'm married and stuff, but it didn't take me back to that time. I wasn't thinking about an exact moment, but I was thinking about, and I was deep into that emotion. That's a really powerful thing to convey. When you're in it, it's very intense. It's all you're thinking about. It's all you're talking about. An obsession. And when you see Ella, you definitely understand where she's coming from. You get that emotional depth. You get that through his storytelling. I mean, there's no dialogue in this movie except for like giggles and laughs and like cries and people going haha and moans and things like that. That's about it. It's kind of pretty much like a silent film, like an animated silent film, but it uses a lot of silent film imagery in it and visual storytelling within it. It shows how well Bill Plympton knows visual storytelling. And a film like this, when you're talking about relationships and cheating, if it's a live action film, it usually has a lot of long speeches about gender roles and things like that, and it can get a little boring and it can get a bit much. Usually films like the subject matter that this film is have a lot of dialogue. They really rely on that dialogue to tell their story and get into the complexities and intricacies of the relationship and when someone cheats and how it makes you feel and everything like that. Most of those films I like never really want to see again ever, and Cheatin' felt a lot more intense in those moments. It felt like something I could relate to more. Visually it was so much richer. It tapped into that better than I've seen probably 1 or 2 films about that subject matter ever do, because it kind of feels like a slog most of the time. And in Cheatin' it doesn't feel like that, because he does do kind of surreal and metaphorical imagery where it shows how Ella is like finally opening up her heart to someone. He has a cool sequence with that. Jake, when he's all upset that he thinks Ella's cheating on him, the driving sequence with the car, that's really amazing. There's never any doubt that this isn't an animated movie, and he really like plays with the laws of physics. It still very much understands its characters and the emotions behind it, but it can still be very much an animated film. It shows Plympton's strengths and how well he can play with that while telling a different kind of a story. Like Guard Dog to me is like a typical kind of animated film that he's done, whereas this doesn't feel as much like Guard Dog. This feels like a really deeper kind of opus kind of a story. But as much as I like probably the first 2/3 of this film, I felt the third act or the end parts where she goes to see this magician, and there's a lot of things I don't really want to get into because it really would be spoilers, but the third act really did feel very messy. It kind of ruined all the complexity, kind of simplifies it a little, brings up a plot point that kind of diverges it and like kind of distracts you from all the deeper emotions they got into earlier. The whole idea of Jake being a gas station attendant being this really macho guy, and Plimpton's stylization of these characters, I really like how he does Jake and Ella. And Jake's like this six-pack beefcake kind of guy, but he's drawn like he has an incredibly thin waist and like he's huge on top. It kind of looks like a really demented version of Space Dandy. Ella is drawn in a similar way, and I like how he does the character design. It feels very outrageous and very surreal. The third act and the end of the film I really didn't like as much as the rest of the film. I really felt like it betrayed the message of the earlier parts, and it did feel like a way to stretch it out and make it more of a feature than to deal with the fact that he's sleeping with all these ladies and she's feeling very jealous and dealing with those emotions. And there's a certain point where in any relationship, if that happens, you can't really go back. As much as you think you can, you can't. It doesn't really work that way. When Cheatin ignores getting into that, it betrays what it's trying to do, and that's unfortunate because the other parts are so good. I know that famous Billy Wilder quote where you say you have third act problems, you really have first act problems. But I don't think that's really true in terms of this film, because there's parts that come up towards the end that really just pop out of nowhere at the end. It really just did feel like they came to a standstill and added this in or something. A lot of ways with Cheatin, I like how he did it. I like how he told the story visually. I like how he drew the characters. I love the animation. You could make a case like what's more important, the story itself or how you tell the story, and I think in a lot of cases you would probably say how you told the story. And I think how Bill Plimpton told the story was amazing and probably one of the better ways to tell a story with animation that I've seen, at least so far in 2015. It's very uniquely told. I know he likes Winsor McKay because he made that short film. He really understands how to tell a story visually like a silent film master. We really don't have a lot of people who can do that as well as he can. And the thing about Plimpton and his work that when I saw Idiots and Angels, I wasn't really a fan. It kind of gave me a film where it was like, okay, I get why people are so fanatical about him. I really love this movie, and I've recommended Idiots and Angels to tons of people because I really love Idiots and Angels. I think he gets a lot of respect for working independently and being as productive as he is and being the figure that he is, but not necessarily getting the respect for his actual films. He's gotten Oscar nominations, but often when I talk to people, they respect him, but they're not really fans of his work. For me, Idiots and Angels was really a turning point for me in that. Cheatin is like halfway for me. I don't think there's a lot of people who are going to see Cheatin and their minds will be completely changed, the way I was with Idiots and Angels. He has a very sketchy style. He's very alive, unique. The character designs, they feel like they could always contort their bodies and move an arm and do these bizarre kind of things. It feels so much more alive. It doesn't feel as constrained and confined, and that's a beautiful part of animation, and it's really cool when you see an animated film that can do that. Bill Plimpton's style feels very playful, and that's a really beautiful visual poetry to actually watch on the screen. And animation wise, I think this is probably one of the better films I've seen in a long time. Plimpton has a style of all his own. There's only one Bill Plimpton, and he's the kind of independent animator that even if I'm not a huge fan of this film, but I still respect the hell out of him. I still love Idiots and Angels a lot, and I still like a lot of his films. I'm not incredibly disappointed or anything, but I'm not really in love with this movie. I was pretty much in love with this movie. Right after the characters started falling out of love with each other, I kind of fell out of love with this movie, unfortunately, but I still think it's an amazing visual feast to behold. And as long as Bill Plimpton can do stuff like that, I still will probably see the rest of his features. And I really recommend, if you're into animation and you're into seeing animated feature films, you should still check these out and really understand who he is. This is only about 76 minutes. I like shorter feature films. I like that about films in the 30s, and I like that about Bill Plimpton and his Plimptoons, and it's cool that he does that. Bill Plimpton is a very unique animator, and we don't have enough unique animated feature films nowadays. And that might be sounding like I'm kind of giving in and going like, well, it's unique, so I like it or something, which is like happens in a lot of animated reviews. I understand that sounds like I'm giving in these answer, but I'm not. What I'm saying, if there's a unique thing to a certain film, it is an interesting thing to view. It's an interesting, different experience, and Plimpton always gives me that every time I've seen one of his features. Even if I don't like this as much, I'm still glad I sat there and I watched another intense visual storytelling by one of the best independent animators working today. So if you have seen Cheatin' and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.